If your surname is on this list, you are not being told that you are secretly royal. You are being told something more useful, and, in a strange way, more astonishing. How the four royal houses of Portugal actually worked, how their blood really moved through the country, and why the honest answer to, "Which dynasty do I descend from?" is both more complicated and more interesting than any list can promise. 10 surnames, 10 bloodlines. And by the end of this video, you will understand the Portuguese crown better than almost anyone who ever bought a coat of arms in a gift shop. Stay until number 1, because that name belongs to the dynasty that still has a living head today, a man the Portuguese government recognizes, but refuses to call king. Start with the single fact that governs everything. Every monarch of Portugal, across nearly 800 years, descended from one man, Afonso Henriques, the first king. When direct lines failed, and they failed more than once, a new house took the throne, but each new house branched off the same original trunk. 4 houses ruled: the House of Burgundy, the founding line, also called the Afoncine dynasty, the House of Aviz, the House of Habsburg, when Spain held the crown, and the House of Braganza, the last. They are not 4 separate bloodlines. They are 4 branches of one tree, and the branches split at exactly the moments the country nearly tore itself apart. Number 10. Henriques, from son of Henrique, son of Henry. And this is where the kingdom itself begins. Henry of Burgundy, Henrique, was a younger son of the ducal House of Burgundy, itself a cadet branch of the Capetian kings of France. Having little chance of inheriting anything at home, he came south in the late 11th century to fight in the Reconquista, married an illegitimate daughter of the King of Leon, and was granted the county of Portugal as a fief in 1096. His son took the patronymic that every Portuguese boy named for his father would carry, Henriques. That son, Afonso Henriques, defeated his own mother in battle in 1128, proclaimed himself king after the Battle of Urique in 1139, and founded a nation. If your name is Henriques, your bloodline shares the patronymic of the man whose father brought a scrap of French royal blood south and turned a border county into a kingdom. The next surname is the one people most want to be royal, and its truth is the key to this entire video. Number 9. Afonso. From the Germanic, through the Visigoths, Adolphans, noble and ready. 6 kings of Portugal were named Afonso, and here is the mechanism you have to understand. In medieval Portugal, before fixed family surnames existed, a man's second name was usually his father's first name. The son of an Afonso was called Afonso. This means the surname Afonso spread through every level of society, royal, noble, common, not because all those families were royal, but because the given name was everywhere, and the patronymic simply followed. If your name is Afonso, your bloodline carries the name of 6 kings, and also the name of 10,000 fathers who were not kings at all, and no surname can tell you which. That is not a disappointment. That is how Portuguese names actually work, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a scroll. Number 8 is the name of the dynasty that saved Portugal from being swallowed by Spain, and it started with a man who was not supposed to inherit anything. Number 8. Aviz, and the names of its order. In 1383, the King of Portugal died, leaving only a daughter, Beatrice, who had married the King of Castile. Portugal faced annexation by Spain. The country fell into 2 years of anarchy, and out of it stepped João, the master of the military order of Aviz, an illegitimate son of an earlier king. In 1385, at the Battle of Aljubarrota, his forces destroyed a much larger Castilian army and kept Portugal independent. He became João I, and the House of Aviz was born, a cadet branch of the House of Burgundy, founded by a man whose illegitimacy would have barred him in calmer times. The Aviz kings launched the Age of Discovery. If your name traces to the order of Aviz, your bloodline is tied to the dynasty that was born in a crisis and went on to send ships around the world. Number 7 belongs to the greatest navigator prince of them all, and it is a name that means something surprisingly humble. Number 7. Henrique, again, in the form the world knows as Henry the Navigator. Prince Henrique, son of João I of Aviz, never sailed much of anywhere himself. What he did was organize. He gathered pilots, cartographers, and shipwrights, and pushed Portuguese caravels down the coast of Africa, farther each year, launching the maritime expansion that would define the next 2 centuries. He held the ducal title of Viseu, and the towns and titles his family held, Viseu, Beja, Coimbra, Guimarães, became surnames in their own right, because in Portugal, as across Iberia, the land a noble family held often became the name it carried. If your name is Henrique, or tied to those ducal towns, your bloodline is woven into the administrative machinery that turned a small kingdom into the first global empire. Before we continue, if you are finding this useful, subscribe to Origins Decoded. Every week we uncover the history hidden inside surnames, bloodlines, and family names from across the world. Hit subscribe so you never miss one. The next surname reveals the strangest chapter in Portuguese royal history, the 60 years when the King of Portugal was the King of Spain. Number 6. Filipe. From the Greek, lover of horses. When the Aviz line failed in 1580, the crown passed to Philip II of Spain, a Habsburg, who became Philip I of Portugal. For 60 years, from 1580 to 1640, Portugal was ruled by 3 Spanish kings, all named Philip, under a personal union called the Iberian Union. Portuguese historians name this the Philippine dynasty, and every one of its monarchs bore the same name. He swore to rule Portugal as a separate kingdom, and for a while he did. If your name is Felipe, your bloodline carries the name of the foreign kings who held Portugal for 3 generations, a period Portugal spent the rest of its history trying to forget. Number 5 is the name of the noblewoman families whose marriages actually moved royal blood through the country, and it exposes the real answer to the whole question. Number 5. Pereira. From Pereira, the pear tree, one of the most common surnames in all of Portugal. Nuno Álvares Pereira was the brilliant general who won Aljubarrota for the House of Aviz in 1385, and then his daughter married into the highest nobility, and her descendants became the House of Braganza, which would one day take the throne. This is how royal blood actually spread, not down a single male line of kings, but sideways, through the daughters, through marriages into great noble houses, generation after generation, until after 5 or 6 centuries, a very large share of Portugal carries some fraction of it. If your name is Pereira, your bloodline may well touch royalty, the same way that, statistically, almost every Portuguese family alive does. The blood is real, the exclusivity is the myth. Number 4 carries a name from the far north, from the county where the whole kingdom was born. Number 4. Braga, Guimarães, and the names of the cradle. The county of Portugal began in the north, around Braga, Porto, Coimbra, Viseu, and Guimarães. Guimarães is called the birthplace of the nation. It is where Afonso Henriques was born, and where he began his revolt. These town names became family names carried by people whose ancestors came from the founding heartland of the kingdom. If your name is Braga or Guimarães, your bloodline is not necessarily royal, but it is rooted in the exact ground where Portugal declared itself a country, which, for a surname, is a rarer and more locatable thing than a vague claim to a crown. Number 3 is the name of the queens, because for 2 reigns, Portugal was ruled by women, and the line ran through them. Number 3, Maria. Portugal had 2 ruling queens, Maria I in the 18th century and Maria II in the 19th. And their reigns matter for this reason. They prove that the Portuguese royal bloodline passed through women as fully as through men. When people search for royal descent down a chain of fathers and sons, they miss most of the actual inheritance, which zigzagged through daughters, queens, and the marriages of infantas into other dynasties across Europe. If your family name honors these queens, remember that in Portugal the crown itself passed through the female line, and so did the blood, into families all across the country and the continent. Number 2 is the name of the last dynasty's founder, an illegitimate son who built the wealthiest house in the kingdom out of nothing but favor and land. Number 2. The Braganza line, from Afonso, 1st Duke of Braganza. He was an illegitimate son of João I of Aviz, born in 1377. Barred from the throne by his birth, he did something else. He accumulated land, titles, marriages, influence. He founded the House of Braganza in 1442 and made it, within a few generations, the most powerful and wealthiest noble house in all of Iberia. For nearly 200 years, the Braganzas were the richest subjects in Portugal, and not kings. They waited. If your name is tied to Braganza, your bloodline descends from the patient branch, the one that spent 2 centuries as the second family in the kingdom, holding more land than the crown itself. And now, number 1. This is the house that finally took the throne, ruled Portugal to its very last day as a monarchy, ruled an empire in Brazil, and still has a living head, a man walking around today whom the Portuguese state recognizes, but will not crown. Number 1. Braganza, the House of Braganza. In 1640, after 60 years of Spanish Habsburg rule, Portugal rebelled. The nobility turned to the Duke of Braganza, that patient, immensely wealthy family, and made him João IV. The Braganzas ruled from 1640 until 1910, when the last king, Manuel II, was forced into exile in England and Portugal became a republic. The same house had ruled the Empire of Brazil, which became independent under a Braganza emperor and lasted until 1889. And here is the ending that no surname list can match for strangeness. The head of the House of Braganza today is Duarte Pio, Duke of Braganza. The Portuguese government formally recognizes him as the legitimate successor to the kings of Portugal, and recognizes him only as duke, never as king. The dynasty is not extinct, it is not restored. It exists in a deliberate, quiet limbo, a living royal house of a country that decided, more than a century ago, that it no longer wanted a throne. If your name is Braganza, your bloodline shares its name with the last royal house of Portugal, the one whose story has not fully ended, only paused. 10 surnames, 10 bloodlines, 10 corridors leading back through a Burgundian knight who came south to fight, a king who beat his own mother in battle, an illegitimate master of a military order who saved a nation, 60 years under Spanish kings all named Philip, and a wealthy patient house that waited 2 centuries and then ruled until the monarchy's final morning. Your name is not a certificate of royal descent, but here is the true thing underneath the myth. In a country this old, whose royal blood passed through daughters and second sons and marriages, into the great noble houses for 800 years, a very large share of Portuguese families really do carry a thread of it. The blood is common, that is not the letdown, that is the miracle, a whole nation quietly related to its own founding. Drop your surname in the comments, and tell me which region of Portugal your family came from, the north, the Alentejo, the islands, because that will tell you far more than any dynasty label. And if your family kept a story, say it, because those stories deserve to be heard. If you made it to the end of this video, subscribe to Origins Decoded. Every week we go deeper into the history hidden inside the names people carry, without knowing what they mean. The next video is already waiting for you.